Yes, folks, that was Aaron O'Toole who delivered the prayer for Canada this morning. Excellent. Welcome, Aaron. Nice prayer for Canada. Love that none is too many thing. He would have been a great prime minister. I have some words for the current prime minister today. We're going to wait for that. I want to extend a special welcome as well to Maayan Shavit, who is here with us this morning. A few weeks ago, Carol Silverstein, our member, told us the story of Alon Gat, who was with us a year or two ago on the Peace of Mind. He was here at Beth Tikvah participating in the Peace of Mind program, which helps provide healing to combat soldiers of the IDF. He was here with us and was kidnapped along with his daughter and his wife Yarden and their cousin Carmel and their aunt Kineret. All of them were kidnapped by Hamas on October the 7th. Maayan is the cousin of Alon. She lives here in Toronto. Maayan, are you here in the congregation? There she is in the back. Maayan, welcome. She's going to tell the story of her cousin. Some of you know the story or remember the story, know that Alon and his daughter managed to, by some miracle, run off while they were being transported into Gaza, while they were being kidnapped. They ran off and hid and are safe. But Yarden remains captive. And it's very, very important that we keep the hostages on our minds. And I'd like those of us who are not going to the reception for the B'nai Mitzvah to join us downstairs and speak to Maayan about her family and what this experience has been like for her. So please join us after Kiddush, or during Kiddush I'll make an announcement if you'd like to hear from Maayan. And Maayan, thank you for everything you're doing. I know you're speaking in many, many places as much as possible to raise attention to the plight of these 240 hostages. We pray that they are returned safely and speedily to their families and that you will be able to see them again. We're also having a family service now in the Kulanu room. If you'd like to, anyone who wants to go to the family service can head downstairs. It started a few moments ago. I want to tell the story this morning first. A very, very touching story about Vivian Silver of blessed memory. I don't know if you've been reading about Vivian Silver, who was found or identified as one of the victims of the October 7th massacre earlier in the week. Vivian Silver grew up in Winnipeg. She was active. There are some people in our congregation who remember her, who also grew up in Winnipeg. She was active there in the B'nai B'rith youth group and in her synagogue. Her story is that in 1968, she spent her junior year abroad at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, where she studied psychology and English literature. And 3 weeks after her return to Canada, she decided she would make her home in Israel. With a group of friends, she made Aliyah in 1974, settling on kibbutz Gezer, which is a beautiful kibbutz in the center of the country. In 1981, she established the department promoting gender equality in the kibbutz movement. Most of her years working there were spent as the manager of construction projects, and after hours she served on the board of the New Israel Fund, when the New Israel Fund was fittingly lauded as the proactive supporter of social justice issues in Israel, including religious pluralism, civil rights, sharing society between Jews and Arabs, gender equality, and more. She was one of the founding families of Kibbutz Be'eri, and its proximity to the border with Gaza was what intrigued her about this kibbutz. It actually excited her. She could be closer to the people for whom she was working on developing a better future with. She moved there with her husband, who passed away a few years ago, and their two sons, Chen and Yonatan. This was a woman who dedicated her life to the peace movement in Israel, literally. It's amazing how many different organizations she led or volunteered in, fighting for a two-state solution. Every single organization in which she volunteered had Jewish and Palestinian representatives, including Women Wage Peace, which is one of the largest peace movements in Israel. She had thousands of friends, a huge network of people who loved her. Wherever she went, she spread a feeling of community and love and humanity. In the past few years, she spent her free moments driving Gazans in need of medical care from the border to hospitals in Israel. This is what she said a few years ago in an interview. Living on the border of the Gaza Strip is a compelling factor for me. I am driven by the intense desire for a security and a life of mutual respect and freedom for both our peoples. She was a wonderful friend and mother and doting grandmother. In the early morning of October 7th, as terrorists invaded Kibbutz Be'eri, Silver hid behind a closet in her safe room and began texting family and friends. At 11:07, her son Yonatan texted her, "I am with you. I feel you." That was her response. Forensic evidence this week confirmed the identity of her remains. The irony here is so horrible, but it is important that we remember her name, that we tell her story, that we remember the causes to which she devoted her life, and that we remember the circumstances of her murder. Vivian Silver. This is who Hamas calls the enemy. This is the person, all the people marching in the hate parades. This is the person whose murder you are justifying. We will not forget her. Yehi Zichra Baruch. Vivian Silver. As many of you know, this past Tuesday, Chazan Kovari and ritual director of Kirschenblatt and myself, and actually some other members of Beth Tikvah too, it was nice to see other members in DC, joined 300,000 of our closest friends for the largest pro-Israel gathering in North American history. And I'm so glad that we went, and I want to thank Shul President Barbara Albert, not only for allowing us to go, but for supporting our participation enthusiastically. What a day Tuesday was. An opportunity to express our deep gratitude to President Biden for the comprehensive and extensive support for Israel that he and the United States government have displayed since October the 7th. An opportunity to demonstrate our steadfast support for our brothers and sisters in Israel who are engulfed in grief and enmeshed in this terrible war against Hamas. An opportunity to hear from some of the families of the 240 hostages and to demand over and over again that they be brought home. An opportunity to call attention to the insidiousness of anti-Semitism, which has resurged with a vengeance some 80 years after the Shoah. And we did all of this gathered in the light of day to dispel any thought that our community is intimidated, to dispel any thought that we might be intimidated into keeping silent or staying in the safety of the shadows. What we heard on the mall on Tuesday, and I know many of you were watching as it was being live streamed, was an echo of the exhortation in Isaiah. Kra begaron al tachsoch. Cry with your full throat. Kashofar harem kolecha. Raise your voice like a shofar, so that cruel injustice against Israel and its captive citizens will be redressed and the alarming hatred against Jews vanished. The spirit of that day was one of solidarity, moral clarity, determination, ahavat Yisrael, and mutual respect. Because of our numbers, we showed the world the normative Jewish voice on Israel, which is a voice that demands support for this just war until a new reality on the ground is achieved. No graffiti was sprayed. No businesses were intimidated. No one was trying to pick fights. No terrorist flags were waving. No calls for deaths on infidels. No looting. Just celebration and love. Sadly, the empowering emotions of that day were tempered upon landing back at Pearson when I opened up my news feed and discovered that our political leadership in Canada was peddling in false moral equivalencies, spreading Hamas lies, stoking anti-Semitism, and caving to evil. Congratulations to our Prime Minister, who successfully united Prime Minister Netanyahu, the head of the Israeli opposition, Yair Lapid, the pro-Israel community, and the pro-Palestinian community. We all agree that Canada is bereft of competent, effective, principled, moral leadership. To him and to our government, we have to say loudly and clearly, wishy-washy, flippity-floppity, vote-peddling statements say one thing to the people in this room and something else to the people in the other room. The Jewish community will not be played like fools. We've said it many times, and we say it again, there are only two sides in this war. Right or wrong, life or death, peace or terror, Israel or Hamas. There is no middle ground, and trying to find it only emboldens the serious threats and the serious hatred that the Jewish community is contending with right now. You heard about the bomb threats at Chat this week and the vandalism that's all over Toronto. We need leadership that's ready to face evil, to speak against it, to choose the right side. A number of times in the book of Genesis, we are told that the people of Israel will become so big, we will become innumerable. And the Bible uses a number of different metaphors to illustrate this idea. In Parashat Vayetze, we are told, we will be innumerable like the dust of the earth. In Parashat Vayera, we're told we'll be innumerable like the sand of the sea. And in this week's Parsha, we're told we'll be innumerable like the stars in the sky. Rabbi Ephraim of Lunchitz, who lived in the 16th century, explains that each one of these metaphors refers to a different stage in Jewish history. There will be times when we will be like the dust of the earth. We're going to be trampled on and treated like dirt, kicked around, disrespected, and humiliated. There will be other times when the Jewish people will be like the sand of the sea. When nations like waves rise up to defeat us, they will not succeed. Immediately, their efforts will crash like waves upon the sand. They will be broken, and we will remain strong and resilient. And there will be great times in Jewish history, times of peace and prosperity, when we will shine brightly like the stars in the sky. While the commentator was referring to 3 different periods of Jewish history, I think that right now we're going through all 3. We've been treated like the dust of the earth. We've lost many wonderful souls, like Vivian Silver, irreplaceable people, victims of an ideology that denies that life is anything more than dust if it is a Jewish life. At the same time, waves are crashing upon us. The demonizers and the delegitimizers with their words, the terrorists with their weapons. But their tactics are not moving the Jewish people one bit. We are resilient, we are strong, like the sand of the sea. But the Jewish story today is also positive and bright. Let's not lose sight of that. The thousands of charitable activities that are taking place across Israel and indeed across the whole world to help those in need. That Washington rally, the unity, the resolve, the achdut, it's simply incredible. And it's coming from all parts of the Jewish world. We are celebrating life like we're doing today. The Jewish people are shining like stars in the sky. And my friends, we will continue to shine. To our enemies we say, you who have treated us like dust will surely end up being buried in the dust of the earth yourselves, to be long forgotten. To those who spread waves of lies against us, in the newsroom of the CBC, in the halls of Parliament, in the United Nations and elsewhere, know that Israel will not be moved. And to those who want to dim our resolve and get in our way before the job is done, know that despite you, right now, today, the flags of Israel fly triumphantly above what were last week, the terror headquarters of Gaza. The same flag that flies above the ancient walls of the city of Jerusalem, our eternal capital. Our flag of blue and white, that is the symbol of our survival, our heroism, and our election by God. Our flag that is being hoisted up through the bravery and resolve of our heroes, the soldiers of the Israel Defense Forces, the most moral army in the world. Our flags, with the stars of David at the center, they are the fulfillment of God's prophecy. They are our stars in the sky, crying out to the whole world, Kumi ori, kiva orech. Our light has come. Rise up and shine. May God help us to defeat all those who rise up against us. May God bring home our hostages safely and speedily to the embrace of their loved ones. And may God soon deliver the eternal light of salvation to the Jewish people and to the whole world. Shabbat Shalom.